The Last Ronin, issue number 5 from IDW. So we finally get our epic conclusion to this 5-issue miniseries. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So we have Mikey, our Last Ronin, and he's yelling at his brothers. Basically, they're calling him a coward for running away when he was pushing the advantage. And basically tell him, like, you got to finish this now. And the argument ends with him yelling at his brothers and telling them to disappear and never come back. So they do. And Mikey writes one last thing in his journal, and then he heads out to go confront Oroku Hitori. And while this is happening, the freedom fighters are dealing with a flooding in their base, and April is trying to take care of it, and Casey goes to help her out. And I'm going to kind of be skipping that. We're going to get to the actual meat of this story, which is Mikey doing a one-man crusade against Hitori. So he sets off some explosions to create a diversion, but those explosions end up causing more explosions, and now the entire building is being rocked. And Hiroki knows that he's there, and Hiroki's getting prepared. Meanwhile, Mikey slices his way through a bunch of human foot soldiers, and we just see corridors and corridors of a massacre left behind. And Mikey is like kind of reflecting on this and talking about how he's no longer fighting robots or flying Mausers or anything like that. These are actually humans with human reactions. And then we get one guy who's basically the guard of the door that Hiroto's behind. So Mikey fights him, defeats him, fights an army of synthetic crows, fights another robotic creature. Basically, he's just going through everything that he possibly can until he finally comes across Hitori. And we get monologuing between the two of them. Hitori talking about how he's going to kill the mutants here and now. He's going to have his fun murdering the last of the mutants. And Mikey basically trying to give it back. You might try to kill the last of the mutants, but I'm going to kill the last of the Orokus. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill your mom. And then we see Karai. She's still inside her little pod because she's been in a coma ever since Raphael damaged her and basically semi-drowned her in a few issues ago. Yeah, Hitori basically shows that he doesn't give a crap about his mom, that he always hated his mom, that he always hated Karai for abandoning him as a child, and that he only kept her alive out of spite so that she, will be lost and alone in her coffin while I conquered. And so he stabs into the pod and kills his mom. So now Karai is dead. So then we get the showdown, and Natori has this suit that basically is like liquid metal. It reminds me kind of the T-1000 from Terminator 2, and it's basically able to form like the claws, and it's like a sci-fi-ish liquid metal version of the Shredder armor. And then we get an epic showdown between the two. They're fighting through the burning building. An explosion throws them out the building, and they're falling through the air. And as they're falling through the air, they're still fighting each other. They're crashing through pillars, still fighting each other. They can't crash through a glass ceiling, still fighting each other. They hit a water tower, and they're still beating each other as they're crashing to the floor. And this whole time, Mikey's trying to find a weakness on this guy's suit, and he just can't. So he comes up with this idea where he grabs, I want to say it's an EMP, but I don't know what exactly it is. It's this little explosive that Raph gave him, and he shoves it into Hiroto's hand, causes it to explode, and then Raph stabs him before the liquid metal can reform and conceal his hands. So he creates this really smart move where basically if he can damage parts of the suit and then do a quick jab into there with weapons, he can get an injury going before the suit can reform. We have that going on. Meanwhile, there's more explosions going off. This one blows up Hitori's house, and Mikey uses that advantage to knock Hitori off the building and crashing down to old New York. So now they're fighting in Mikey's old territory. And usually this is where I would stop because I don't want to do spoilers, but I might keep going. You know what? Let's keep going. So if you don't want the ending to be spoiled, stop right here. But we basically get an epic showdown where We're in old New York, and Mikey is using all of his brother's weapons to deal minor damage onto Hitori. And eventually the fight leads down into the sewers, and eventually the sewers get flooded, and Mikey and Hitori get flushed out, so they're on the outskirts of the city. And Mikey basically says, "This is where you're gonna die. I'm gonna bury you here in this mud hole. It'll be your grave, broken and alone outside the city you tried to destroy, forgotten forever." And here's where we have the final moments between the two. Mikey is basically choking a wounded Hitori. He's pummeling him, and then Hitori does something. Looks like he grabs something on his chest, which causes an electrical burst, and the burst zaps to both of them, and they both die. Hitori falls into the mud and he drowns, and then Mikey, who has received multiple damage throughout this entire fight, collapses on his back just as Casey arrives, and he's able to give Casey his father's Splinter's journal, and he says, like, I wrote down all the lessons that I can, especially the most important lesson of all, which is know peace. No as in Know, not N-O. And yeah, he basically dies surrounded by Casey Marie and April. And in the end, he wakes up and he sees his brothers and Casey and Splinter, and so he ends up happy with his family. I will say that I enjoyed this issue a lot. There's more. There's like a whole epilogue and stuff, but I'm not going to go through that. I will say I enjoyed this issue. The epic fight between Hitori and Mikey is just awesome, and just Mikey fighting his way through the building and all of Hitori's men and stuff. Great. I feel like the whole flooding subplot with April and Casey kind of weak, not really necessary. I guess it was an excuse to keep them away from the main fight, which I guess I appreciated, because one of my worries was that Casey was going to be the one to do the final blow to Hitori. Like, Mikey was going to injure him but not be able to finish him off, and then Casey was going to come in and finish the job. And I was hoping that wasn't going to happen, because I felt like Mikey should be the one to get the final blow. He's the one that literally lost everybody. I mean, of course Casey did, but Casey wasn't old enough to really feel that loss. Meanwhile, Mikey was. And Mikey spent 16 years after losing everything to train and fight for this moment. So I'm glad he was able to get the killing blow, in a sense. But at the same time, I feel like he was kind of cheated, because it almost feels more like Hitori killed himself because he knew that Mikey was going to beat him. So he's like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to take you with me, in a sense. So I don't know. I feel like the ending to that fight was a little bit anticlimactic. I would have liked it better if Mikey actually did kill Hitori. Like, if Mikey pushed Hitori into the mud and drowned him to death himself, and then basically he used all of his strength that he could, drowning Hitori. And then once Hitori was dead, that's when Mikey collapses due to his wounds, and then eventually dies of blood loss and all the wounds he sustained. Like, that would have been a cooler ending, in my opinion. But the way it is here, where he's kind of choking Hitori and getting ready to pummel him, and then Hitori just kind of zaps both of them, and Hitori basically kills himself because his zap knocks him out and he drowns in the mud. Meanwhile, Mikey kind of crawls and dies from his wounds. It was, I don't know, it just felt a little anticlimactic, and it kind of bothered me a bit. I would have liked the fight to be more of Mikey killing him with his own hands rather than Hitori kind of killing himself, in a sense. But other than that, I did like the way that this issue ended. I did like where this series went. Like, this whole series was phenomenal. Oh, do I want to give this series overall a 10? I don't know. At this point in time, I want to say this is like a 9.5. And I don't give like 9.6, 9.7 or anything. It would either be a 9, 9.5, or a 10. I want to say this is a 9.5. I'll give it a while to see if I want to change that and actually give it a 10. I will say it was a great issue, great, phenomenal series. Just this issue itself, like I said, it's like 90% amazing, and then like 10% kind of meh. and the mint comes from April and Casey's subplot. Like, I feel like in the end they didn't really do anything to help contribute to stopping Hitori. And by that I mean it might have been better if they were leading the charge and helping the freedom fighters fight a bunch of the synthetics and stuff like that. Meanwhile, while everyone's focused on that, Mikey is sneaking into the building and slaughtering his way up to the top to fight Hitori. Like, that would have been better. But instead, it's basically April is reduced to trying to stop her base from being flooded, and then Casey's helping her out with that. So it feels like in the end, they didn't really do much. Meanwhile, again, as I said before, I didn't care for the way that the fight between Hitori and Mikey ended. I felt like Mikey should have delivered the final blow rather than Hitori kind of killing himself. So that kind of bothered me. But other than that, this was a fantastic issue and a fantastic conclusion to a amazing series. I loved it. Go check it out. And yeah, there we go. The conclusion to the Last Ronin. I will be doing one more video on this series. I'll probably get it up next week, and that video will just be covering all the deaths of the characters and how it happened. Just for anyone who's like interested and stuff like that. And I did talk about all of them in previous videos if you want to go check those out. But I feel like maybe it'd be good to just have one video where we just go through how everyone ended up dying. But yeah, there you go. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, issue number 5 out of 5, the conclusion. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.